Every single construction project, whether it's big or small, has one thing in common: a ton of debris. From a simple kitchen remodel to a full-blown demolition, figuring out what to do with all that waste is a huge part of the job. So, how do you handle it all efficiently and, responsibly? Well, let's break down everything you need to know about renting a construction dumpster. So, to really get why this matters, let's start with a number. In 2018 alone, construction and demolition projects right here in the US generated a mind-boggling 600 million tons of debris. To put that in perspective for you, that is more than double the weight of every single car in the entire country. It's a staggering amount. And that, of course, brings up a really big question. When a building comes down or a new one goes up, where does all that stuff, the concrete, the wood, the metal, the drywall, where does it actually end up? Well, the answer isn't nearly as simple as you might think. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. We're going to walk through this whole journey, starting with the sheer scale of the challenge. Then we'll get into the real nuts and bolts, picking the right dumpster, understanding those tricky weight limits, knowing the rules of what you can and can't toss, how to place it safely, and finally, we'll see where all that waste actually goes after it leaves your job site. So let's kick things off with what I like to call construction's hidden challenge. We always focus on what's being built, but managing what's being thrown away, that is a massive logistical puzzle that every single project has to solve. That's 600 million tons of C&D waste. It's not just some abstract number. It actually accounts for nearly a quarter of all solid waste in the entire country. Think about that for a second. One single industry is responsible for almost 25% of what's going into our landfills. And that's exactly why getting the disposal part right is so important. Okay, so this brings us to our first practical step, choosing your dumpster. And you got to think of it just like any other tool on a job site. You have to pick the right one for the work you're actually doing. First off, it's really important to know the difference between the two main types. You've got your front-load dumpsters. That's the little guy you see behind a restaurant for their daily trash. But for any real construction or demo project, the workhorse you're going to need is the roll-off dumpster. That's that big open-top bin that's designed specifically for heavy, bulky debris. Now, let's talk about sizing, because this is key. The easiest way you wrap your head around it is to think in pickup trucks. A 10-yard dumpster, which is the smallest common roll-off, holds about 3 full pickup beds worth of stuff. This makes it absolutely perfect for, say, a single-room renovation or a small weekend clean-out project. Then you step up to a 20-yard dumpster, and now you're looking at about 6 pickup truckloads. Honestly, this is the most popular size for a reason. It's just right for those bigger residential jobs, like tearing off a whole roof or doing a big interior renovation across a few rooms. And then you've got the big one, the 40-yarder. This behemoth holds about 12 pickup loads and is really reserved for the biggest jobs. We're talking commercial builds, full home demolitions, and major new construction projects that are going to generate a massive volume of waste. Okay, so you've picked your size, you're all set, right? Well, not quite. See, volume is only half the story. Now we have to talk about one of the most misunderstood and costly parts of renting a dumpster, the weighty issue. Here's the deal. Every single rental comes with a weight limit that's included in the base price. It's the maximum tonnage the truck can safely and legally haul away. If you go over that limit, and it's easy to do, you're going to get hit with overage fees. Why? It's simple. Landfills charge by the ton. And this gets to the key distinction, the thing you have to remember. Volume is all about space. Will your stuff physically fit inside the bin? But weight is about mass. Is it too heavy for the truck to actually haul? You could easily have a dumpster that's only half full by volume, but it's already way over its weight limit if you're tossing out something super dense like concrete or dirt. And just look at the materials themselves. A single cubic yard of broken concrete weighs about a full ton. Now compare that to something relatively light like drywall or wood scraps. This is why you can't just eyeball it. Tossing out an old concrete patio is a completely different weight calculation than getting rid of debris from, say, a wood frame demolition. So, you've got the right size, you understand the whole weight thing, awesome. But what can you actually put inside it? Let's go over the essential rules of the bin. First, let's talk about the non-negotiables. Hazardous, flammable, and toxic materials are absolutely forbidden. I'm talking about things like car batteries, tires, wet paint, and fuels. This stuff can leak, it can cause fires, or it can release toxic chemicals at the landfill. These items require special disposal, period, no exceptions. Then you have the restricted list. Now, these things aren't necessarily hazardous, but they're a real pain to process at the landfill. We're talking about mattresses, appliances, old electronics. They often require special handling and might cost you extra fees. The key takeaway here is super simple. If you're tossing anything on this list, just ask the rental company first, always. Now, let's talk about another area that's super critical: placement. Where you decide to put that dumpster is about so much more than just convenience. It's about safety, it's about access, and ultimately, it's about liability. I want you to really think about this for a second. That giant steel box is sitting on your property. If an accident happens, say a car backs into it or a neighbor trips over it in the dark, who do you think is legally and financially responsible for the damages? Well, the good news is you can minimize that risk pretty easily with just a few simple steps. Pick a level, stable spot with clear access. Be super precise with your drop-off instructions for the driver. Make that dumpster visible, especially at night with some reflective tape. And here's a pro tip for you. Always lay down some plywood to protect your driveway from the weight of the bin and that heavy delivery truck. So the truck has picked up your full dumpster. Job's done, right? Well, the story doesn't actually end there. Let's follow the final leg of the process, the waste journey. On professional construction sites, this whole journey is guided by something called a waste management plan. It's basically a strategy document that thinks about waste before it's even created. The entire goal is to divert as much material as possible away from the landfill by figuring out what can be reused, what can be salvaged, or what can be recycled. And the core idea behind all modern waste management is something called material segregation. It not only allows for effective recycling, but also makes the entire waste management process smoother. By separating materials on site, wood over here, metal over there, concrete in a third pile, you're not just making trash, you're actually creating streams of valuable resources that can be recycled and put back to use. And that really leaves us with a final thought. The next time you see a construction dumpster, I want you to ask yourself, is what's inside just waste to be buried? Or is it actually a collection of valuable resources that are just waiting to be sorted and given a new life? As we've seen, that choice often begins with having the right plan from the very start.